Hello everyone. So this is the analysis of the poem Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, Canto 3, stanzas 36 to 45 by Lord Byron. These are some of the important points about this poem. Childe Harold's Pilgrimage is a long poem written in four parts by Lord Byron, published between the duration of 1812 to 1818. This narrative poem is dedicated to Anthea Charlotte Harley, daughter of Earl of Oxford. This poem is about a traveler who is not interested in society and sees distraction by making tours to foreign lands. This traveler reflects the disillusionment and disappointment followed by various revolutions. Child means a person who is a candidate for knighthood. In Canto 1, Baronic hero reveals his travel experiences in Spain and Portugal, which was invaded by France at the time. In Canto 2, he visits Greece, which is under Turkish power. In Canto 3, he reaches to the battlefield of Waterloo, where Napoleon was defeated in 1815. Byron had appreciated Napoleon as he reached to the great heights of success, although he belonged to a humble background. Byron calls Napoleon a man of extremes, overambitious and egoist, and his being overambitious and egoist brought his downfall. This poem was written when Napoleon was still under the guardianship of Admiral Sir George Popin. This poem is considered having autobiographical elements. This poem is written in Spencerian stanzas. Now come to the text of the poem. So now poet starts the poem by talking about the fate of Napoleon that he had sung. So he had fallen from his status, and he calls him greatest nor the worst of men because he started his journey with noble ideas. For example, he wanted to establish democracy, and he was fighting against monarchy when he started his journey. And then poet says, whose spirits antithetically mixed. What does it mean? That who has opposite extremes of character, and at one moment he focuses his attention on small objects, and on other hand he becomes most powerful. So on the one hand he is most powerful, on the other hand he focuses his attention on small objects. And then poet says that he was extreme in all things. If he had adopted a medium approach, if he would have been a mediocre, then he would not have lost his throne and his power. And then poet says that his boldness and his courageousness brought his downfall. Okay, and in the next lines, poet compares him with Jupiter, okay, who is the Roman god of thunder. And he compares him with Jupiter because people were still scared of Napoleon, although he was under captivity at the time, but people were still scared of him because he had the power to shake the world the way he had done by winning so many European countries. So that's why a poet compares him with Jupiter. Come to the next lines. And now poet says that he was a conqueror and captive of the earth because he had won so many European countries, and people are still scared of him and his wild name, and his name is rumored in the minds of people more than before. What does it mean? That people are talking about him more than before. Bruited means rumored. And then poet says that he is nothing at this moment of time. He seems to be nothing, but he seems to be the mockery, okay, kind of jest of fame. What does it mean? That he seems to be as if fame has mocked him, fame which had pursued him once, and the way fame and prosperity had paid homage to him. He was successful, he had reached to the great heights of success, but now it seems as if fame had deserted him. So fame had flattered him, and at that time, when things were favorable to him, he considered himself to be the god, and all the kingdoms which he won granted him everything, whatever he asserted. So that was his power. Come to the next stanza. Now poet says whether he was in his good situation or in bad situation, or in prosperous circumstances or in adverse circumstances, he battled with nations, he fled from the field, and he even cheated the monarchs who had helped and supported him in the beginning. So he had made these monarchs next thy footstool. What does it mean? That he used these monarchs to serve his ulterior motives, and he had the power to crush, to destroy a kingdom or an empire, to command it or to get it rebuilt. And he was governing the pettiest passion. And what was this pettiest passion? His hunger for more and more war, bloodshed, and violence. So, although he was skilled in knowing people's mind, deeply in man's spirits, he was skilled in knowing people's mind, but he was not able to understand his own mind and his own hunger for more and more bloodshed and violence. And he was not able to control his lust for war. and even his fate, which had supported him so much, had left his favorite star. Okay, come to the next line. And now poet says that he had enjoyed the turning tide. What does it mean? He had reached to the great heights of success. Okay, and he believed in some kind of inner philosophy. It could be anything. It could be wisdom, coldness, or deep pride, but which brought destruction and misery to the enemy, is gal and wormwood to the enemy. So whatever philosophy in which he believed brought misery and affliction to the enemy. And then poet says, but when people stood together to see his destruction or to see his downfall, he still had calmness on his face, and with a soothing expression on his face, he endured everything. Okay, and it seems as if fortune had left him, fate had left him his once spoiled and favorite child. So once he was favorite of fate, but now fate has left his spoiled and favorite child, and he stood unbowed beneath the ills upon him piled. What does it mean? That he is standing alone, and he is standing on the piles of the wrongs which he had done to others, ills upon him piled. What does it mean? So he is standing unbowed. So he's not bowing his head out of shame and any regret, and he's still standing on the wrongs and the mistakes which he had committed in his life. Come to the next stanza. And now a poet says that he started his journey with noble causes. For example, he wanted to establish democracy and he was fighting against monarchy. So Caesar then in thy fortunes, for in them ambition steals thee on too far to show. What does it mean? That he became over ambitious. Okay, and initially he had the support of people people were supporting him. Okay, when he was fighting against monarchy, but later on people started being critical of him because he became over ambitious and he became egoist. So that's why he poet says that that just habitual scorn which could condemn man and their thoughts. What happened? Poet says that Napoleon became openly critical of people, and that was not good for him. Poet says if he had some problem, an issue with people, then he should have kept that kind of feeling in his heart. He should not have expressed it. He should not have expressed it. Should not have worn it on his lip and brow. And the techniques and the tricks which he used, you know turned against him, and he had to face his downfall. It is but a worthless world to win or lose. Now poet says that this is worthless world. Obviously Byron was against wars and bloodshed and violence that war causes. So that's why he said this is a worthless world to win or lose. So have it proved to thee and all such a lot who choose. So those who do not understand it have to face, you know, a downfall or have to face adverse circumstances. Come to the next stanza. Now poet says that Napoleon was at the height of his success. So he is compared to a person who is standing on the highest rock, and it depended upon him whether to be there or to fall from there. Okay. And what happened? But Napoleon fell from there. Okay, such scorn of man had helped the brave the shock, but man's thoughts were the steps which paved thy throne. What does he mean by these lines? He says that that he became a great leader because people were supporting him. People were supported him, and it is only because of people that he had his throne. But what happened? He did not acknowledge their support, and he became critical of those people, and he became Diogenes, who was a cynic philosopher and who distrusted humanity, and he believed that all human beings are selfish. So he did not become Alexandra, but he became Diogenes and became critical of entire humanity, and that was not a you know, uh, good step taken by him, and that's why he had to face challenges in his life. So their admiration thy best weapon shown. What does it mean? That initially he had the support and admiration of people, but later on he became critical of everybody, and he became Diogenes. Fine. And now in the last line poet says that for captured cynics, that he himself became a cynic, critical of people, people's minds and their thoughts. Now poet says that this is a small place. This earth is a small place for such cynics, or for those people who are so critical of everybody. So I will continue in the next slide.